Hi there, welcome to this first video on templates. First two videos that I'm going to record about templates. And the first thing that we need to be thinking about when we are looking at templates is this idea that you're creating something of a mold for people who will be using whatever it is that your template is going to be about. So in terms of what actually is a template, you're thinking, templates can be used in a whole range of different industries, and even not just in industries. It can be sports as well. You frequently talk about teams having a template from which to move forward in the future. Well, in terms of what we're looking at, it can be thinking about, from a business perspective, you're going to be creating a template that can be used potentially multiple different times. Obviously, it depends on what it is used for, and you can pretty much create a template for most things, obviously depending on what the business is. So if you are, for example, a carpenter, you can have a mold for some kind of pattern, some kind of thing that you want to create many times, and of course this creates some kind of consistency for you. If you're a large company, you need to reproduce something on many different times. You're going to have some kind of mold that you will use so that your product will go into it and come out consistently the way you want it to. Now, we're obviously looking at this from a business document perspective. So we're going to be looking at it from the point of view that we're going to be creating something for a company using software. And before we do that, I just want to kind of have a little think about, okay, so why would a company do this? And how would they do it? Because actually, if you're a company, if you're a reasonable sized company, and I will use college as an example because it is a reasonably sized company with multiple different areas within the college. What you can't have is different departments using different templates. So let's say, for example, if you have a letter, what you can't have is one department sending out a letter that they've created, they've formatted, and then let's say, for example, you have human resources and they've created their own department, their own template for the letter. Maybe marketing have developed their own template for the letter, and so on. And the reason why you don't do that is because it will create inconsistency, which will then look unprofessional. What you would want is some kind of template that you are able to replicate across the business, because you're trying to create a brand, okay? And even if you are a college trying to create some kind of brand, because you want people to think about you in a certain way. You want businesses and customers, so customers in this case obviously students, to be thinking about, okay, so you want to do certain things, and therefore a college is a good place to achieve that. What you don't want is all these mixed messages coming out, and I do think COVID has mixed up a few of those messages with regard to college, but it's still very much a case of college is something for people almost as a bit of a second chance in a lot of cases. For if school hasn't quite worked out for you, then you can come to us, and certainly a lot of the learners are slightly older, and it used to be a lot better when the funding allowed for students to remain with us until they were 19 rather than 18. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, and things like funding is not the focus of this video. So branding. Now, branding is this huge area that, in particular, you'll look at if you go on to do a business course. But no matter what job you would do, whether it, like I said, is specific to business, or whether you go into that business to perform a role, let's say a digital role or an IT role, you're going to need to make sure that you are meeting this branding. So let's say, for example, if they hire you as a website developer, you can't just create any type of website. You have to create a website that fits in with the brand. And branding is kind of an overarching type of idea of this message that a company wants to give out, that of these thoughts and feelings that they want people to think about when you talk about a business. And templates help a business to actually put across these ideas. And you may think, well, how will they do that? But if you think about the way that a business communicates with people, the way that a business tries to give the message to not just customers, employers, or stakeholders, so stakeholders, anybody involved with the thing that's happening at a given time, of the project, in a lot of cases at a given time. And there's lots of different areas to it, and I'm not going to go into every single one of them, but the one that I will and do want to spend a little bit of time looking at is the term house style. And house styling is something which will commonly be used on things like documentation, certainly on things like websites, certainly on things like software that is especially bespoke. So bespoke means something that is very specific to a company. If the college has somebody come in and create a bespoke bit of software for us, that means it's very unique for the college. It's been created specifically for the college, and therefore it would need to meet the house style that's been created. And like I said, you're trying to get this message across. You're trying to get your general kind of themes across, the way that you're trying to get people to think and feel about your business. And what therefore you don't want is for anybody to create any type of documentation. So you want everything that you kind of do, use and create for these documents to look and I was going to say feel. I mean, feeling may be the wrong word, but you want them to have a very consistent look about them. It improves professionalism. It improves just the messages that you're going to give across. Now, an example of this I found is IKEA. Now, I say I found out, it was one of the first ones that came to my mind because it's so kind of vibrant. So if you think about IKEA, the house style for IKEA is very much blue and yellow. Now, I assume that they have created that style because IKEA is originally from Sweden and blue and yellow are the national colours of Sweden. That's my assumption. I don't have anything definitive to say that is definitely the case, but that's just my feeling. Now, if you actually go into the IKEA store, again, it's consistently blues and yellows throughout. Very impersonal. So it's kind of, you walk around there and you're very much kind of left to your own devices, and there's lots of products that are available. You can go and buy this, and some of them made up, and they kind of be like, okay, this is what it'll look like when you've made it all in your living room or bedroom, whatever it might be. And good luck with that, because the instructions tend to be quite dubious. So I've got a couple of websites up now. I loaded up these websites. So I've got IKEA, I've got Tesco, I've got Sainsbury's open. Now, I was kind of hoping that the IKEA website would be a little bit more kind of, I guess you could say, in your face maybe, but then also I'm kind of realizing that the time of year I'm recording this on, which is New Year's Day, obviously there's a lot of sales going on right now, and you'll notice a pattern, by the way, with a lot of websites at the minute, that sales and sale items are represented by this bright red. Okay, bright red is designed to get your attention, but not actually very many companies have bright red as their color scheme, because it's seen as quite an aggressive colour. and there's all kinds of theories behind colour schemes out there that I'm not going to touch on right now. Obviously, blue and yellow in IKEA's instance, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's because it's the national colours of Sweden. But there are a lot of companies out there that will have actually specifically chosen colours to represent themes and messages that they're trying to get across. So if you think about something like a McDonald's, their yellows is quite a comforting colour, quite a inviting colour. But what you'll also see on here is it's fairly minimalistic website. So there's not a huge amount on here. Certainly not very much text as I go through it, and it may be different when you look at it, and it may be in a couple of weeks or it may be in a couple of years. So it may change slightly, but I can tell you that the general style of the IKEA website hasn't changed particularly in all the years that I've been using it. I have also done a general kind of search. So this is the IKEA store local to us, which is in Milton Keynes, and you can see, very much the vibrant blues and yellows really coming out. It really attracts you. Or maybe attract is the wrong word, but you can really see it from a long way away, and you know what store it is immediately. You don't have to guess, oh, I wonder what store that is. If you go into Tesco, so Tesco, their colour schemes are your blue, red and white, and you'll see this throughout if you go into a Tesco store, in that there is a lot of blue, there is a lot of the red is more of something that will that they use to gain your attention. There's also this yellow, which is your club card prices that they'll kind of attract you. It's kind of be like, oh, look at this is amazing, £5.25 for cheese is an incredible price. Anyway, it's incredible how expensive some of these items are these days. But again, if you go through the store, you see these colours through there. If you see the outside of a store, unless you actually see the writing on the outside of it, it's very difficult to tell that it is a Tesco's generally. I've got Sainsbury's as well. Sainsbury's have like an orangey colour, although again there's lots of red on there to represent sale and offers and so on, but you can see that there's lots of oranges here and so on. So you would expect the documentation for these companies to align with these colour schemes is the overall point that I'm trying to make. Okay, it would look really odd if Sainsbury's here, with all this orange, okay, if their documentation was blue and yellow like IKEA, that would be strange. And all of this kind of these fonts that we're using here. So I have no idea what font this is that they're using, but it's the same one that they use for their typography everywhere. If all of a sudden their documentation is different, strange. And you're going to need to think about, house styles for and how they, influence a company, how it may kind of change the templates that they'll use long term. So I've gotten here some prompts. So you've got colour scheme, obviously it's the one I've spoken about the most probably. Fonts, what fonts to use. You'll notice that most of them will use very sensible fonts. What we call most of them will use a sans serif style font, which is like an Arial type font, because it's one of the easier ones to read. I was going to say the easiest, but apparently the easiest one to read is actually Comic, which is interesting. But you got website appearance, so you can look on there and you can think about how does the website look. So if you think about those three sites that I looked at are very clean, very they're not very cluttered. Whereas if you go on something like Lings Cars, then it's chaos. Now I've not been on their social media sites in this video. I'm not going to, otherwise I'm going to run them to a very long video. But you can think about, do they use social media? If so, how? I've never seen. I'm sure they do have social media, but I've never seen Tesco on social media. I'm sure they do have it. I'm not really sure why somebody would follow them on social media. They're not really the most kind of thrilling thing. It's like you'd be scrolling through your Facebook and all of a sudden it'd be, hey, you can buy some cheap grapes today or something like that. I'm not sure I'd necessarily be jumping out my seat for that. But also think about the way that they communicate. So most of these bigger sites will be very professional in the way that they speak. They'll be very I'm not sure offish is the right word, but they'll be very formal. They won't be particularly jokey with you. It will be very kind of to the point. Whereas if you get some other companies, maybe smaller companies, who maybe want to have a more personal approach with someone, they might be more informal, and that may allow them to get closer to their customers, potentially. So I'd like you just to spend 5 minutes researching Tesco, so you can visit their website. You can see if they have any social media. I assume they do. It would be very surprising if they didn't. It's just I've not looked at it personally. I assume they're on things like Twitter. And think about, okay, so why have they chosen to do certain things? What's the impact that's going to have on a customer, or indeed Tesco itself? And if you're struggling with Tesco, then use the supermarket that you most commonly use, because they all look markedly different, Asda, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, they all look quite different, and actually they all have their own distinct kind of message, because they all target a certain type of user. I'm going to let you do that, whereas I'm going to continue on with the video, otherwise it's going to be several thousand minutes long. Now, once you've done the Tesco activity, I'd like you to do a slightly longer task, which is where I'm going to give you these 6 different companies. They're all quite well-known companies, and I'd like you to think about each one of their house styles. So you have Nike, Target, McDonald's, Shell, Starbucks, and Apple. Now I'm obviously reeling out the names because on my next slide I do have a list of the names just in case you need to refer to it later on. But notice how none of these logos have company name on it. And again, I'm trying to kind of show you that this branding, this house style, really has quite a profound impact. At least 5 of these companies are international companies. Target, which is the circle, it's an American retail company. I don't see too much of that in the UK, but I assume that it must be still quite a big company. You can have a look at it, and I'd like you to have a look at all of these house styles, the color schemes. Think about the imagery they're using, the social media. Think about how they communicate with people, and I'd like you to, in a word processor, discuss how they do that. And think about impact. So think about, who are they aiming their products at? Because if you're thinking about Starbucks, for example, although their target audience is similar to McDonald's, I think they're probably looking at a very slightly different target audience. Shell is certainly looking at a different target audience to both of those two. Nike, yeah, probably. Apple, so just have a think about how they do that. Okay. Again, I've got a list of companies here just in case you need to refer to it. Remember, as a video, you can work your way through the playhead as and when you need to. I'll just go back to the previous slide. So I'll set you a time limit for that within the classroom, and you'll need to be uploading that to a upload area by the time you've been given. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be another one about templates, but one that will be more specific to actual templates that we will use within a specific business.